Ever since home prices began to skyrocket in 2020 and 2021, people have been talking about a housing bubble and a crash. And most of those people have compared what our current market looks like to what happened in 2008. But I believe that's mostly because people have some PTSD still from that time, and it is the most recent and big housing event that we have seen for a long time. So it kind of seems like that would be the easy answer, which is why so many YouTubers have been screaming housing market crash from the rooftops for so long.
Home prices are bound to crash.
Is it showing that this housing crash is accelerating at warp speed?
We have the fastest price crash in history.
I mean, if you say it long enough, it's bound to happen, right?
Nice.
But to really understand and explain the housing market, it's not that easy. And oftentimes you have to go back further to really understand what's going on. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. First, you have to understand that what made the housing market crash in 2008 is not currently present in our market right now. We do not have subprime lending with stated income loans, nor do the majority of people getting loans have these loans on an adjustable rate mortgage. Those adjustable rate mortgages can lead to a higher default rate when interest rates rise. But right now, they represent less than 5% of the purchase and refinance loans that are out there in the world. That is compared to over 35% of loans that were adjustable rate mortgages pre-Great Financial Crisis. The other thing that is not happening right now is overbuilding by home builders. In fact, I think that home builders got so burned in 2008 that they will never go back to the way that they used to do things, which could lead to a perpetual inventory issue, but time will tell on that one. Another thing that homeowners are not strapped with like they were in 2008, and that's mortgage debt. In fact, U.S. economist Jessel Park just said this: household mortgage debt represented roughly 65% of U.S. consumers' disposable income in the second quarter, compared to 100% before the Great Financial Crisis. And the ratio of Americans' mortgage debt to their real estate assets, also called loan to value, was just 27% in the second quarter, compared to over 40% in 2008 and roughly 50% in 2010. So if we're not following the 2008 housing crisis, what's going on with the real estate market? Well, many experts are feeling like it is more in line with the market that we saw in the 1980s. The housing market had boomed.
Where is the beat?
Inflation had gone through the roof, and the Fed had to start raising interest rates. Sound familiar? Something else that is very similar to our current market is who the buyers are. See, in the 1980s, baby boomers were in their prime home buying years, as you can see from this chart. It didn't matter if you were an older or a younger boomer, because the 1980s hit them both when they were in their 20s and 30s. And as you can also see, this is when the interest rates were at their highest. What these 18% interest rates did was cool the inflation, but it sent the economy straight into a recession. And here's what most people believe happened during a recession: a housing crash.
The world will end next week!
However, let's look back and see what actually happened with home prices back in the 1980s. In August of 1979, the U.S. median sales price was $64,700. And even after a near doubling of interest rates, that figure rose to $69,400 in the second quarter of 1981. That is not a crash. The number of homes sold and the number of homes built during that time did slow, but it did not tank home prices. And this is exactly what we're seeing in today's market. In fact, as you can see from this chart, it was only one recession out of the past 8 over 50 years that actually saw home prices decline, and that recession was caused by the housing market, the subprime mortgages, and the things we've already talked about. All other recessions saw home prices either continue to rise, albeit slowly, or just went flat. In an article in Fortune magazine, they stated this: one of the key reasons for the resilience of the housing market in both of these periods is demographics. Noticeably, demographics were favorable back then, with baby boomers having entered the prime home buying age. Park and her team arguing millennials are in the same position today. Some sales activity should be supported by millennials reaching the prime home buying age, and single-family building permits have steadily held up. This can help the housing market retain some of its momentum without falling apart. Here's the one piece that is drastically different, and it's where the interest rates started when these markets began to shift. See, for the baby boomers, the rates were already in the 7s, where now all the millennials remember are rates in the 3s. But here's something to know if you are a millennial buyer. Go ask one of these baby boomers who bought a home at 12+%. No one will ever tell you that they regret buying that home. They may have had to get creative to buy it by borrowing money from a parent or a family member, or buying a home that offered an assumable loan, getting a rate buy down from a seller like we are right now. Some got married so they would have 2 incomes to be able to purchase a home. Some even bought homes with friends. And some bought homes and didn't have furniture or appliances for a little while. I have heard some crazy ways that people actually were able to purchase a home. So if you bought a home during that time, tell me, what was your interest rate and how creative did you have to get? Now, I know what many people will say, and it's gonna sound a little something like this.
But homes were much less expensive back then. Now they're really expensive and unaffordable.
Now, I wanna share 2 different charts with you as it relates to this. Now, I got these from my friend Tina over at the Cromford Report, and it really helped shed some light on the whole affordability issue that everyone's talking about right now. What these are showing are your median home price versus your family income. And if you look at the thickest gray line on the right, this is showing that in 1982, the median sales price was $69,600. This is the top chart. Then the bottom chart is showing the median family income, which at the time was $23,430. That means for a homeowner, they were spending 40% of their gross monthly income on a house payment. If you look at this second chart, you will see that in the first quarter of 2023, the median sales price was $416,100, and the median family income was $92,750. That means that the homeowner was spending 30% of their gross monthly income on a house payment. So the reality is that back in the 80s, homeowners were spending more of their monthly income on their homes than now. The question now comes to, are we going to see a recession? Now, if you believe we're going to see a recession, then you believe that our interest rates are going to come down. Because historically, when we enter a recession, our interest rates come down, and they come down pretty quickly. However, if you believe we are not going to see a recession and we are going to see more of that soft landing everyone's talking about, then you believe our interest rates will stay higher for a longer period of time. This is something that no one can predict. If the US does slip into a recession for the remainder of 2023 or even into 2024, I don't see this as a real big reason to panic. First off, historically, recessions don't last very long. The average duration of a US recession since World War II has been 11.1 months. And that COVID-19 recession that we saw, it lasted for 2 months. Recessions are fairly common, even though we have not seen one for 14 years, which is again one of the reasons that I think psychologically it has been really tough on the millennials, especially if they're an older millennial and saw what their parents went through back in 2008, because that was rough. Now, while recessions can lead to job loss and other financial difficulties, they have also historically had some extremely great buying opportunities, especially for long-term investments like housing. You know that saying, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market, meaning that homes were never meant to be short-term holds. They were meant for people to buy them to live in for quite a few years. If housing does go flat, with the way our job market has been, especially in cities like Phoenix and Scottsdale, like where I am, that have an extremely strong job market with high-paying jobs moving into the state all the time, this will just lead to wages catching up and possibly surpassing what the appreciation has been on homes. So if we do see a recession, the housing could slow down a bit, but we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. Now, if you like this video, make sure you take a look at this one. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.